How do I do this? How do I do what?
We've come to accept the fact that Generation Y is the worst generation ever. They're overprogrammed, overprivileged, ultra-consumers, and ever-connected. But that's not the image that I see here. I see a group of kids learning what it means to live underneath the poverty line. I see a group of kids who are changing the way that they think and interact with the world around them. All this from a 2-day service trip? This led me to ask the question, can service work really change the world?
On the biggie boom boom track. I've been roaming around, always looking down at all I see, ain't a face, still the places I can't reach, you know that I can use somebody, you know that I can use somebody, and will you bring the thunder in my life? And the fire in my eyes. Somebody. Everybody sing now. You know that I need somebody.
I feel like I've been hearing about the demise of civilization, and that I was directly causing it, since I was born. Those of us born after 1980 would branch off of the infamous Generation X. Gen X was defined by their spurn of authority, loners whose new conception of society was shaped by the advent of cable television and the end of the Cold War. Members of Gen X would look to subvert political and economic norms by bucking authority and forging their own pathways in both the worlds of business and government. The rise of the entrepreneur and the bursting of the web startup bubble brought us closer to the age of the Xer. However, the advent of the internet changed things in a dramatic way for Gen Xers. Their rise to prominence would be subverted in and of itself by a group of kids who began to consume differently and react in ways that traditional sociologists and market researchers couldn't quite adequately predict. In 2001, Douglas Rushkoff released this report on what he called the Echo Boomers.
They were raised by doting parents who told them they were special, played in little leagues with no winners or losers or all winners. They're laden with trophies just for participating, and they think your business as usual ethic is for the birds. And figuring it out takes time. Sociologists tell us most Americans believe adulthood begins at 26 or older, and that having witnessed so many sacrifices by their parents to achieve middle-class security has had a huge impact. Family and friends are the new priorities. Blind careerism is beginning to fade.
So let's meet Kev. I know, I look like I have it all together here, right? I was heading down a pretty destructive pathway in college until I took a chance and traveled with a group of my peers to Phelps, Kentucky in 2001. My world expanded, and all of my perspectives changed. I began studying the underlying root causes of why the Appalachian region existed, and my dreams of becoming a high school history teacher dissolved. There's way too much happening in our world today to dwell in the past. That moment of grace is not unique to me, even though it most likely saved my life. It's happening all around us every single day. According to a 2009 Santa Clara study, students who participated in service immersions trips developed better coping skills when dealing with stress, as well as a stronger sense of vocation in choosing their eventual career.
I first went to El Salvador as a junior at Sacred Heart University, and wasn't a youth, but I was 21 and sort of felt like a youth at the time. And really my first ever immersion trip, I saw how the real world lives. And I say the real world because people here in the United States, we're so blessed and so much more blessed than the majority of the country. But to see people struggling and not knowing what they're going to eat every day or if they're going to eat every day, but seeing how happy they are, and they have their faith, their families, and their friends, and that's pretty much all they have. And if you ask them, they'll probably tell you that that's all they need. My life has really shaped who I am because I know that as long as I have my faith, my friends, and my family, I'll be all right. And I live every day grateful to God that I have those three things. And it allows me just to live simply and to breathe a little easier every day, knowing that no matter what happens, I'll be all right.
A 2010 study from the University of Notre Dame identified major areas of perspective change in students who participated in service trips as being in poverty, justice, diversity, social change, and inequality. Notably, the study concluded that these perspectives were universal in students regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status.
Oh, my hero tried, but I failed too many times, seeing blue and green when I was supposed to see white. All your ships and magazines seem like make-believe to me. You won't find me in the line trying to get somewhere to be. We were carrying on, oh, we used to be so strong, never knew we...
In my experience, service immersion trips are incredibly beneficial for young people and adults because obviously you get a good sense of perspective about how fortunate your life is in comparison to other people, and you can pop your Connecticut Fairfield County bubble that we live in and really see how people outside our very fortunate region live. It definitely allows you the opportunity to bond with people. The groups of kids and adults that I've done on my service trips with are people that I still talk to on a very regular basis. They're still kids and adults that I do trips with. Obviously, it allows you to use the gifts that God has given you to make other people's lives a little bit better.
Our service immersion trips affect our students regardless of the trip in some sort of common fundamental ways. The purpose of them is to take them out of a familiar element, and that's to begin to get them to understand someone else's context. In particular about Urban Plunge, because that's the one I'm most familiar with. Even though it's a very, in terms of location, a very close place, it's a very different place for most of our students. And what they get out of immersing themselves in any community, and in that one in particular, is that they sort of have to drop the barriers that are a natural part of life, but very often keep us from experiencing some of the best things in life, and that would be obviously relationship with others, and in particular relationship with other people that are very different and have very different experience than we do. So I think all the service trips, while there's an education piece, you learn something about the cultures, you learn things about different languages, you learn lots of things. I think the immersion in relationship, potential relationship with those that our students are serving is the most important aspect of all of these trips. I think how it impacts students, varies from person to person, and the level of introspection and reflection that they are naturally able to do. Some guys, they go on a trip and it changes their life, and it's something that is just a part of them from that moment forward. Other students, it takes a little time for the immersion experience to sort of settle in and for them to process it and for it to have an effect, if it has an effect on them.
I went to El Salvador twice in high school. My junior year I went for the first time, then I went my senior year, returned as a leader. And I would say that out of all the experiences I ever had at prep, everything that I saw, what I learned and what I experienced in El Salvador were the most formative experiences I've had at this school. I think what that taught me about social justice, from firsthand seeing it in action and understanding what poverty is, what violence is, what it really means to be poor, that taught me more than anything else, that I could have read, or that young person seeing that, it really changed the way I think about how we live here, and just how things that are considered struggles where we live are nothing compared to what people go through in the third world. So, for a young person to see that, it really changed the way that I, thought about myself and thought about the way that I live my life.
To decide that the things that I tried were in my life just to get high on. When I sit alone, come get a little known, but I need more than myself this time. Step from the road to the sea to the sky, and I do believe that we rely on. When I lay it on, come get to play it on, all my life to sacrifice. Hey, oh, listen what I say, oh, I got your head.
A 2006 St. Joseph's University study found that students who participated in service immersion trips had much higher Quest scale results. A Quest scale calculates complexity, openness to change, self-criticism, and positive doubt. Students who participated in the service immersion programs for more than 3 years had a much higher likelihood to be engaged in advocacy and activism as adults. So at the end of the day, what's it all about? We've seen the stats, heard the personal stories, and been moved by the images. I think former Fairfield Prep teacher Tim Olmsted sums it up nicely. Service immersion programs introduced me to God's Spirit. While my faith journey has been one of ups and downs, and a lot of what have yous, the one thing that I've never doubted in my adult life is the presence of a loving and guiding Spirit that exists within me, and in you, and in our world. There are a number of ways to experience that Spirit. For me, the strongest way to experience it has been through service immersion. I know that you can change someone else's life by contributing to the Mite Box, but that the only way to change your own is to serve. So hey, what are you doing this summer?